I've tried yoga, I've tried meditation, I've tried exercise, but no matter where I turn, I still can't find balance. Okay, maybe I need an outside voice. Before you seek purpose and meaning, I got to ask you, I don't know how to give myself a sense of love and belonging. And because I don't know how to give myself a sense of love and belonging, there are many people that have wealth. There are many people that have possessions that are internally unhappy and miserable in their lives because they haven't answered the questions that we're trying to tackle today.
I would like to introduce you first, Jerome.
Okay.
You are a great therapist with over 20 years of experience, and my therapist for the last 3 years. I think you are particularly great because the therapy sessions with me or with you don't seem really like therapy. It's more like a talk with a mentor, a very wise person. I also think you have a very good instinct about people, which makes you a great guest for today's podcast. And now, if you don't have anything to add, I would like to start with the topic.
Okay. Nothing to add, Alexandra. Thank you
Okay.
for having me.
Yes, I'm a little bit, how do you say, more proper at the beginning in order to give the people the context. Now, I would like us today to talk about people, specifically people who are struggling, because at some point in life, every one of us is struggling. Some can get through hardship easier and some harder. Now, the question is when it's time to take the issue you're struggling with more seriously, Jerome?
Okay. When it's an issue that you yourself realize that you can't solve.
Well, that's a simple answer, but it's a little bit harder than this because uh, you can say I didn't solve it yet, or I'm really trying. I have this more to do.
Hmm. Yes, very similar to you, Alexandru. That's probably what you said for, probably several years until you realize that all of the self-help books, all of the knowledge that I'm gaining, I'm still not solving the problem. So I think it's time for me to seek help and to get somebody else that has an outside perspective to give me their take. And that's what allowed you to start with me.
Yes, mine also came with hitting a rock bottom and uh, uh, deep feeling, sorry about that, deep feeling of unhappiness
Mhm,
and illness, let's say, mental hardship.
mhm.
So, and there are people, maybe, I don't know if we can call them more resilient or not, that would pursue their state of life and mind not endlessly, but more than a few years that I did.
Mhm.
So, can you point down a specific trait or something of a problem that can give you a flag and say, okay, it's time to do something more about it?
Okay. Well, let's take the example that you gave and use it, Alexandra, about you hitting rock bottom.
Yes.
Okay, the goal for would be for persons not to have to get to rock bottom to seek help. That would be the optimum goal because once you hit rock bottom, that means in general that you've got a further way to travel to get to wellness. So the goal would be is to be able to have indicators that let individual know that this is getting out of hand and I need help. What would be an indicator? You know, where is a person at when it comes to balance? How are people balanced in their lives? When you talked about what brought you into therapy was a place of surreal unhappiness and mental exhaustion and discomfort. Okay, all of that's led by not having balance, about being at a place to where no matter what I try, I can't get to a place to where life seems, balanced. Life seems pleasurable. Life seems okay. So trying to have measures in place that let me know, okay, I'm out of balance in every the things that I've tried A, B, C. I've tried, for example, I've tried yoga, I've tried meditation, I've tried exercise, I've tried developing new relationships, but no matter where I turn, I still can't find balance. Okay, maybe I need an outside voice that will, be able to see something, hear something in me that I'm not seeing and hearing in myself that can get me to a place of balance quicker.
Yes, yes. It sounds really, really nice. It seems that in order to achieve that, you need a, a view of yourself. So you have to have some kind of introspection, no?
Absolutely. Introspection and, really you have to be able to be self-aware. And on many levels, that's where we as people, no matter where we are, where we're from, we all struggle in the same ways generally. And it has a lot to do with our ability to truly be self-aware, or our ability to not just be self-aware, but to take the deep dive into introspection, self-reflection. In our world today, Alexandru, think about yourself before you landed into counseling. Was there enough time for you? Was there enough time in your day for you to be self-reflective? Was there enough time in your day for you to be introspective?
I think not. And if it was, because I was keeping notes, it was one of my habits to keep notes. It was uh, a kind of introspection that did not get me to the right results also.
That's good. That's good. And the reason why, Alexandru, not just because your life was moving so fast, and in reality, a lot of us feel as though we don't have time. I think the bigger issue is a lot of us are afraid of what we're going to find when we take the deep dive into self-reflection, and introspection. We already know that we're not going to like what we see, so we run from it.
Yes, and to still to this day is a struggling, at least for me, with that. But the good part is that I am aware of that, and I know here's the problem. My go-to solution is avoid and make it as it doesn't exist. But through the work with you, I got to the conclusion that it does not help. It only postpone for a bigger issue.
Hmm. That's
And
right.
we talked about this kind of introspection and how we are uh, busy and very outward focused. And even if we are introspective, maybe we are not in the right way. And now naturally comes to me like a way, a pattern to be introspective. So I am a person that is struggling with something. Okay? And let's take a more of a real example. I cannot keep a job for 6 months. And it was my case at the beginning. More than 6 months. I would
Okay.
quit and find another one. I hear the podcast with Alexandru and Jerome, and they say to be introspective, which means staying in one room alone and take into account, observe you and your reality, what happens to you. I'm this is happening, I'm not feeling. Am I right? Is this the introspection that we're talking about?
It is Alexandria, but it doesn't require us to be in one room and to be isolated. When when we're healthy and we're balanced, we can be introspective, self-reflective anywhere. We can be in the midst of a crowd of people and take a moment and ask ourselves the serious questions that allow us to check in with ourselves to see where we are from an introspective, self-reflective perspective. It doesn't require us to, I think in the beginning, it might require us to slow down enough to isolate ourselves and be in a quiet room and to be able to calm our thoughts and to be able to take that deep dive and ask the hard question of where is Alexandru at? How is Alexandru doing? How did Alexandru get here? What does Alexandru need to do to get to a better place? Which all, dives into introspection and self-reflection.
Yes, it's the best case scenario, the one you explained. But
Mhm.
for some people that are starting at that level, it's harder. It was harder for me also. And it
Mhm.
seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, do you need a a pattern, some kind of structure in order to judge your situation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. You would have to, if you're being self-reflective, what's the goal? If I'm being self-reflective and I'm reflecting on myself and I don't see what I like, in what areas do I want to change? What do I want the outcome to be? So I think that in order to answer those questions, yes, you would need some type of structure. You would have to put some type of structure in place that would be able to, one, help you answer those questions, and two, be used as a vehicle to get you there.
So these are the questions:
Yes.
what my goals are, what do I want to achieve.
Where do I, if I don't like what I see when I take the introspective dive, where do I want to change? If I don't like what I see, if I don't like who I am now, okay, then what would I like? What do I want? What do I genuinely, authentically want to be? How does Alexandru want to present to others? What's going to make Alexandru be happy with Alexandru? And as you started out on the conversation, not externally, but internally. Internally, what's going to satisfy person?
Yes, so these are the questions.
Yes.
And let's say even excuse me, even if you said internally, I will write in my introspection exercise that what I want to achieve is $1 million, and I want this would make me happy. So I could do that. So what guarantees me that I have the healthy goals
Okay.
or not?
Well, yeah, the example that you give us, Alexandria, is based on something that's external and tangible.
Yes.
Anytime that's the goal, you're not satisfying yourself internally because there are many people that are millionaires. There are many people that have wealth. There are many people that have possessions that are internally unhappy and miserable in their lives because they haven't answered the questions that we're trying to tackle today. To say that I want to make the goal that I want to earn $1 million and I'll be happy does nothing to address who I am, what I would like to become internally. It doesn't move the needle at all.
So those are the questions.
Yes, yes, those are the questions, and it can't be driven by external sources because things don't make us happy.
Material
Things don't
things.
satisfy us. Material things don't satisfy us.
Well, they do for a little brief of time.
Yes, but not, not intrinsically, no.
Okay, let me challenge you, Jerome.
Sure.
You are uh, experienced. You managed yourself to get in the position to say that. But for me, uh, not really Alexandru, but a person that I'm trying to impersonate, uh, it seems like money are everything I can need and I want.
Okay.
So you come to me with these dreams of know who you are, the internally things that matters more. It doesn't sound true to me.
Okay.
How can we
Okay.
sell this to the people who don't understand and don't like this internally vision?
Okay. Okay. For you, Alexandra, in the audience, picture in your mind somebody that you know that has obtained wealth, somebody that you know has $1 million, somebody that you know doesn't have to really worry or concern themselves with money, with, how the rent's going to get paid, having gas in the car, how food's going to be put on the table. These are not concerns of theirs. Okay. And
Yes.
then ask yourself from the outside looking in, do these people genuinely look happy? Are these people happy? If you know them intimately, what's their conversation like? They've got their material needs met. They have more than enough money that they would ever spend. But are they genuinely happy? You know, um, Good people. Are they living, walking in what we would call purpose and passion?
Wow.
That would be my selling point on why we need to take the deep dive inwardly as opposed to striving to get the $1 million. Because you can get the $1 million, Alexandru, but in the end, you're going to have the $1 million and still not have answered the question. So you would still be at the same point, the converse point that we're at right now about, okay, I've got the $1 million and I'm still not happy.
Yeah, maybe some people need to make it to understand.
If I am sure that there are those that it will take even the making it or the struggle to try to make it to realize that this is not the vehicle that's going to take me to a place of happiness and contentment.
Oh, well. And the answer to the question, if I know and I know how they are, the millionaires, for me, really, it's no. I don't really know because I see them on social media, or I don't have really those intimate acquaintances.
Conversation.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I suppose many of us don't because they are a minority.
Mhm.
Uh, and so we return to the thing that it's most in the last few months most dear to me, this know who you are stuff, this intrinsically uh, identity. And the word identity uh, was king for us in the last sessions. Tell me
Okay.
about this identity. What's the identity of a person and why is it important?
Okay. Sure, I would love to, Alexandra, but I'd like to rebuttal you on something that you said
Yes, please.
about the not knowing of the millionaires. Through my practice and my time in practice, I have worked with a number of people that have more than enough money than they will ever spend. Okay. So, and I've worked with them from a therapeutic perspective. And the reason why they were in my office is because at the end of the day, they had everything they wanted, everything they needed, but they weren't happy. In some cases, they had everything they wanted, everything that they needed, but their marriage was crumbling. They weren't happy. They had everything they wanted, everything that they needed. The relationships were failing. They had everything they wanted, they had everything they needed, but they were miserable at how they came to obtain it. They didn't find purpose and passion in the ways in which they had obtained the wealth. and they were searching for something more.
So you know them
Yes, I do know. I don't know all millionaires, but I have, worked with a few.
with a few. Yes. Yes. So you can confidently say that.
Yes, I can confidently say that, that unless a millionaire has done their own work, I would imagine that some of the same struggles that you and I have or have had, they're having. We're all human beings at the base level, no matter whether we're millionaires, middle class, or we're just downright struggling and poor. At the core, we're still human beings and we have the same basic needs.
Ooh, yes. Yes. I agree partially because maybe are aren't there some human beings more complex, maybe smarter, that need more stimulation, for example, and less complex who don't? So there are differences in intelligence, for example.
Absolutely, absolutely, Alexandria. But research has shown intelligence has nothing to do with our basic needs.
Okay, so does that still applies?
Yes, yes. No
Does the
matter how smart I am, my basic needs are generally the same.
And you, when you're talking about basic needs, you mean like the Maslow's pyramid, for example.
Absolutely. Yes.
So shelter, food, relationships, and something like that. Some of those for first that
Some of those.
yes that can be bought with money. So
Mhm.
we are not, let's say, hypocrites maybe to say
Mhm.
that money does not solve some things. Let's make that clear. So
Yeah,
up
no, no, no.
up until a level, money solved the problems. But
Absolutely.
after that threshold, it doesn't anymore.
Well, yes, I won't necessarily agree with that, Alexandra, and not to get you off the rails here, but as you were describing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you left out the number one.
The
The
self.
number one, the number one hierarchy of needs is the need for love and belonging.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes.
If you go back and look at at the different studies that were performed, where the monkeys chose a a doll that was really a wooden that was a metal structure with actual um, uh, pointy things in it that they had covered up that they could receive, some type of love and comfort from. They chose that over an object that was going to feed them.
Wow, wow. So that sets the priorities straight.
Right. And these are baby monkeys. These are not full grown monkeys. So what does that tell us? A lot of Alexandria, a lot of Jerome, a lot of person A, B, C, D struggle really originates from, did we get our need for love and belonging fulfilled through our childhood development?
So it's about that.
For me, yes, which leads us into I'm a millionaire now. I've got everything that I need, but I'm still not happy.
Oh yeah. And this love and belonging, that the sense of love and belonging that you don't have, for people who don't have it at the right time in their childhood, are
Mhm.
grown-ups and they have to deal with it. What's
Yes.
the way to deal with it, Jerome? We talked about firstly to the introspection. The first step
Mhm.
we can agree on is a look, an inventory of your life to see what you like
Mhm.
about it and what you don't like.
Mhm. Okay.
And then
True.
what can we do then?
Okay. Once you figure that out, Alexandra, it really boils down to once we realize that, I'm a millionaire or I'm a 24, 25-year old upper level, business person, entrepreneur that's doing quite well, but I'm not happy. I'm not happy in my relationships. I'm not happy at the core of who I am. Okay.
Yes.
Once we have answered those questions, we realize that I'm searching for more. Then what we have to do is we have to ask ourselves, okay, what's missing? What do I need? Okay, I'm in a relationship. I'm dating a very beautiful person. We're in love. I am a upper level entrepreneur that's doing quite well. All my needs are met. There's not a whole lot that I want that I don't have, but I'm still in this place of not feeling happy. Okay, so once I'm at that place, then in introspection, I have to ask myself the question, what's missing? What's going to what's going to put me in a place to where I can be authentic in my happiness and my thirst for life. And that will require us to, once we ask that question, we would have to take a trip backwards in time to get the answer. Because at the end of the day, if we truly have been someone that did not get the love and belonging, the nurture that we needed from our caregivers, then when we take that look back at why we're not happy where we are now, it's really going to lead us to a place of, I don't know how to give myself a sense of love and belonging. And because I don't know how to give myself a sense of love and belonging, I don't know how to request that, demand that, expect that from those around
Okay. So it creates like a
me.
barrier.
There is a barrier which would require me to go back and to mend the hurt areas of my life where I didn't receive those things. I would have to, you know, heal in a way from those hurts so that I could in turn learn how to love and make myself feel and know that I am loved and belong simply because I'm Alexandru, simply because I'm Jerome, not because of my perfection, not because of my achievements, not because of my money, not because of my things, but simply because I am Alexandru. I am good enough and I am worthy of love and belonging. And once I come to that realization, then the goal would be for me to heal this wounded inner person that's inside of me that is longing, for my caregiver to give me what I missed out on. I would then have to be able to give that to myself so that my wounded inner person would be well. Thus, once my wounded inner person is well, the external Jerome, the external Alexandru feels better about themselves, can truly walk in authenticity. And then you can answer that question that you've been driving me to. Who is Jerome? Who is Alexandra?
Wow. So that's the steps. That's the sequence of actions. And
That's that's what I suggest.
I remember, Jerome, the first time, and this is something personal that I'm sharing publicly right now. The first time that you said, I don't know how it caught me, I don't know how it happened. The first time you said, Alexandru, you are enough, I started trembling from all my joints, and it was an experience like no other. So I'm meaning to say is that on my own skin, I can attest the importance of what you just said.
Mhm.
And the bottom line, it is that we, you, me, and the other people are enough and deserve to be loved, to have success, and to be happy as they are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you don't have to do
Absolutely.
anything else. Anything else.
No.
You are as
It
as you
can
are right now, you deserve it. It's a given.
absolutely. Absolutely. But until Alexandra, the reason why it shook you to your core when I said that to you is because up to that point, I want to say that when we first met, you were 22, maybe 23 years old.
Yes.
You had struggled with that idea all your life. You had struggled with the question of, am I really good enough? Am I worthy of love and belonging? You had
Yes.
struggled with that, as many of us do. And the reason why we struggle with it is, unbeknownst to us, unbeknownst to our caregivers, if our caregivers aren't coming from a place of belongingness, a place of being good enough themselves, it's hard for them to give it to us. So it
Yes.
falls in this perpetual place to where the same patterns are being repeated over and over. Okay, and the reason why you ran into therapy is just because you realize that these sources that I have around me cannot give me whatever. You didn't know what it is that you needed, but you knew unquestionably that the sources around me cannot provide it. So I need to find a source that's not connected to anything Alexandru, and maybe that source can help me.
I exhausted all options in order
Hmm.
to achieve those. And ironically enough, I was prepared as education in college in psychology. So I, who has done 3 years of psychology, couldn't realize what I needed. So
Hmm.
it can be uh, so buried in ourselves.
Absolutely.
But everything you just said sounds like a search that we need to do.
Absolutely.
So it's a journey that you need to start in order to
Hmm.
get to those results.
Absolutely.
And for a person who is at that point, let's say luckily they're done their introspection. After they're done that, how's the search? How can it be done?
Okay. How could the search be done? Let me say this before I answer that question, if I can, Alexandru.
Yes.
You brought up your 3 years of psychology, and that was both a blessing and a cursing for you in therapy, because if you remember throughout our journey together, there were many times that I would bring up techniques, and I would bring up I would use different tools with you that you were familiar with, that you would kind of roll your eyes at and say, I don't know that this is going to work, or I don't know how this is going to benefit me, you know. But you were committed enough to the process and trusted me enough to walk through it anyway, which in the end you ended up saying, wow, Jerome, I'm so glad that you pushed me in this direction. Okay, so it's not that knowing psychology helped or hurt. I'm glad you put it out there. It's about buying in and being committed to the process, and realizing that I need help, and that I'm willing to do whatever I can to get that help. Okay, now to address your question about the journey, it's really about us, and this is something we talked about early in our relationship, Alexandru. That idea of finding meaning, you
Okay.
know, that idea of finding meaning, answering the question of, what am I, what am I supposed to be doing? What's my purpose? What is my direction? And what I mean by that is, it's not, to be a billionaire. It's not to own, to run a Fortune 500 company. It's not to, drive a Maserati. That has nothing to do with purpose. That has everything to do with, materialistic, extrinsic things and goals. Not telling anybody that's going to listen to this podcast that those aren't nice things. I like Maseratis. I'd like to be a billionaire. I would have liked to have ran a Fortune 500 company. I'm not knocking those things. I'm just simply saying that those objectives don't get us to meaning and purpose.
Yes. It's not the
Okay, to
central
get
things. It's not the
it's
center.
no, it's not.
But okay.
The central things are really being willing to take the deep dive and figure out what it is that you really are passionate about. What it is that you are passionate about and what it is that you love doing. But I believe before we answer that question of what it is that I love doing, that I know that I can wake up every morning and go and do this and not feel as though it's a job. Before we can get to that answer, I think we have to figure out who we are. You know, the identity question, the identity development that many people, whether it's in your country, Alexandru, or mine, are scared to death of. Because whether you're 22, 32, 42, 52, or 62, I work with all populations. And a lot of times, the core reason why many people wind up in my office is because they have yet to tackle the question of who they are. Because a lot of counseling, particularly surrounding COVID, when people couldn't go into their offices, when people, when their jobs weren't the forefront of their lives and they had to look at their personal lives, their relationships, there was a lot of people coming into counseling wondering about, their purpose and, their identity. Because once they lost the rock of their lives, we realized that we spent more times at the office than we did at home. And now that we're at home, what do we have to do? We have to look at ourselves. And what
Yes.
happened with a lot of people, they took a look at themselves and realized they didn't like what they saw.
Yes.
So it ran them into therapy, Alexandru, looking for purpose and meaning. And I drove them away from purpose and meaning and asked them the question, before you seek purpose and meaning, I got to ask you, who are you? And most of the answers would be, Alexandru, I'm an accountant. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a bookkeeper. I'm a CEO. I'm a minister. I'm a mortgage broker. I am a father. I'm a husband. I'm a son. I'm a daughter. I'm a friend. I'm a partner. Many people would throw those answers at me, and I would simply say to them, all of that's great, but that's what you do. Now tell me who you are.
Wow. Okay. And at this point, you don't know what to answer.
In
Bec-
most cases, absolutely.
so, what you do then? But let me go a little bit back. Let's say the person who has done the introspection is committed to the search, and here are more paths to go. For example, as I did randomly, uh, starting therapy uh, without knowing what I could find, only as my last resort. So you could go to therapy, or you could go read. What can you do to find yourself if you are in
Yeah,
that
you can.
position?
Yeah, you can go. You can do those things, Alexandra. You can read the self-help books. You can stumble upon Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. You can read some Henry David Thoreau. You can read some of the great philosophers of our time. And yes, all of those things are going to help you. They're going to give you knowledge. They can be tools for you. But in my experience, Alexandru, it's still going to require you to have a voice that's outside of you that can, that you can learn to trust, that can guide you. You're still going to need an external source, to walk you through the journey. As I said at the beginning of our conversation, it is my hope that from the people that will listen to this podcast is that if you are wondering right now, if you're struggling right now, or even if you don't feel like you're at your optimal place, that instead of running from that feeling, that you will take the deep dive and commit and love yourself enough to uncover the answer. which well may lead you into a therapeutic relationship that allows you to walk through your journey in an efficient manner to get to the place that you really are purposed to be, so that you can actually walk in meaning and purpose and find happiness.
So it takes also commitment, you are saying.
Absolutely. Alexandra, you haven't been walking on this road with me for 3 years without commitment.
I wanted to
Because
get better.
there are many times but there were many times that you and I didn't see eye to eye. There were many times where our calls ended and you were struggling to believe what I was selling, but you stayed committed to the process.
Yes, I wanted to get better so bad because the alternative was not good at all. It was really no alternative than get better. And another thing that I that repeated during our therapy together is the trust. It's me not agreeing with you 100%. It's me seeing what you said like wrong, but you say trust me, and then I did again randomly. I don't know where the power came from. I said, you know what? Let's give it a try. And enough tries, so this trusting became easier. So it's really difficult even if you want those things and you are committed.
Absolutely. Because
But
that's change. Change is not easy, Alexandra.
and change can feel wrong. 100%
Absolutely.
wrong at first glance
Absolutely.
because it's
Absolutely.
so different that you
Hmm.
don't know what you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
But I got lucky, Jerome. I got a therapist that I resonated with, and uh, you managed, because I'm talking about you, to help me. So I felt, and I've grown these past few
Hmm.
years in
Hmm.
a good, more than good enough manner. So it paid for everything that I struggled with, all the difficulties. But
Hmm.
not all people are this lucky. Let's say most of them don't even try to go to a therapist,
Hmm.
and leave them for now and talk about the ones that want to go to a therapist to do this search.
Hmm.
They can get uh, a therapist that they don't resonate with, or maybe it's not good, I don't know. So the therapy seems to not work. I've seen and heard so many people who said they did so many therapies, so many years, and they did not solve some of the things they said. And the
Hmm.
question is, what to look for when searching for a therapist, Jero?
Okay. The real answer to that is, Alexandra, is to be open and to have some common characteristics that you're looking for, like basic things such as, do I want a male therapist or a female therapist? Do I want a therapist that is seasoned? Do I want a younger therapist? Am I looking for a certain kind of modality in my therapy? Certain types of beliefs, in my therapy. What therapist is going to resonate if you know the answer to this, the core of who I am. And choosing your therapist based upon that. Once you actually have those core answers, and you start to do your search for a therapist, and you find the match to those things, then I'm going to interview said therapist or therapist and I am going to see if they match with me personality wise. And I'm going to be hoping to look for some that I can match with someone that I connect with, someone that checks off the boxes, and also someone that I know is not afraid to confront me, and somebody that will challenge me and my stances. You don't want somebody that is so like you that they're going to ride along with you instead of course correcting you and being willing to jeopardize the therapeutic relationship to set you on the right course.
And there's 100% need of that, no?
Absolutely. If you're going to grow, otherwise you will find yourself being one of those persons that you were describing that you've met that had been in therapy for 2 to 3 years, but they had had no real change because they were working with a therapist. And this is not me bashing any therapist. They were working with a therapist that was so much like them that they couldn't challenge them.
Yes. And I don't think you're bashing necessarily. If you can agree or not, you yourself had clients that you did not resonate with. Is that true? So
Absolutely,
it
absolutely.
happens.
Yes, in the interview process, there are clients that chose not to to actually continue with me at the initial session, and there are clients where I told them, I don't think that we're a good fit because of A, B, C, and D, and I recommend, I can refer you to somebody else if you don't have somebody else on your list to go to, but I don't think that it would benefit you to work with me.
So it's not really a matter 100% of good and bad. It's more
Mhm.
of clicking or not with the person.
That's right.
And
Mhm.
so let me summarize to see if I understood correctly, because it also I also need this information, because so see people, I talk to people that I see struggling and I want them to get help, but I cannot go through with the advice enough. So this information, it's very dear to me. And you say a therapist that is somewhat like you, but also challenges you. These are the two
Mhm.
traits.
Yeah, so what I mean by like you, I don't mean in appearance, I don't mean in nationality, I don't mean in ethnicity, I mean in core characteristics, people, someone that you have looked at their bio, their profile, and they speak the same language as you.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about actual, dialect. I'm talking about, the way they think, the way they see the world is very similar to where you think and see the world.
Yes. And this type of person feels a certain way, because some of us can go literally uh, with the list, and some it's like a feeling. So
Yes,
does
yes.
it feel, how does it feel like, let's say, not a friend, because I don't want to be mistaken, but like somebody who could be your friend, let's say, I like this person as a person. Is this
Mhm.
the feeling that I should get?
Yes, I think it would be similar to that, Alexandra. I think it would be not just a liking, but it's someone that I know that I can grow a relationship with, that I can respect, and that I can trust. It's really more of having an intrinsic, maybe intuitive feeling of, I think this is the person for me, after you've done the investigation and being able to, to intuitively know when I'm walking down the list and I see Alexandru and I say, okay, this is not a good match, and going with that.
Okay, interesting. So, taking our hypothetical uh, example and case further, we have a therapist when to expect the first results from a therapist, Jerome?
Well, again, Alexandra, change it's not quite like we imagine it is. Okay, it's not on this continuous continuum that we can clearly see, and you can attest to this yourself. There were many times in our process early on where you would say to me, Jerome, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, but I don't see any real change. And I would have to point out to you examples where you were clearly behaving and doing things differently in the way you live and show you that those were markers of change. But you couldn't see them for yourself because the steps weren't big enough for you. They were something that you wanted to be able to quantify and measure, but because I'm on the outside looking in, I can see the small steps of the different subtle changes that one would be making that leads to large scale change. Okay, so really what you want to do is that a good therapist is going to have a way of being able to point out to uh, the client, when the client says, we've been doing this for 6 weeks, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere, so I think it's time for me to change and to do something different. A good therapist that's worth their weight is going to be able to challenge that client and say, well, you say you haven't changed, but this is what I see,
Okay,
and be able
yes.
to point out to them, clear areas of change, and being able to teach the client how to see those very small areas of change for themselves. Because being able to see those small areas of change, as you know from your experience, Alexandru, gives you hope and motivation to continue the change process.
And really makes all the difference, I feel sometimes,
I agree. I
because
agree.
these changes add up and equals to a bigger change, apart from the big changes that can happen. But as a time frame, you mentioned an example, 6 weeks. Can I demand or expect some change, maybe not recognizable for me, but from my therapist, to happen in 6 weeks, for example?
The answer to that, Alexandru, and please don't mistake me, audience. The 6 weeks was just a hypothetical.
Yes.
You can experience change after the first session. Okay. The answer that I really have for you here, Alexandra, is it depends. And what does it depend on? It depends on whether or not Alexandru is a customer or a client. Okay, a customer in a therapeutic relationship is someone that is in therapy, that is invested and committed to the process of change. A client is someone that's in therapy to be in therapy, but they're not sold on the idea that therapy is going to change them.
Okay, so it's more of a formal role, let's say, just the bureaucracy of it. He pays, he has the conversation, but is not 100% in.
Absolutely.
So again, it's a matter of me as a client to have that commitment that we talked about to get better.
Absolutely. And transitioning from client to customer. Because a customer, as you became in our therapeutic relationship, Alexandru was someone that would say, okay, Jerome, I think you're crazy as hell,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna do it anyway because I trust you.
Yes. 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 Okay. We're
So
approaching.
to find out to answer that question, I'm sorry, Alexandru, for
Yes.
stepping on you. So when I say it depends, if you are truly a customer in therapy and you walk into the therapeutic relationship on the initial session as a customer, change can occur day one and
Say
be on a continuum from day one.
say that again, please, if you may.
If Alexandru walks into the therapeutic relationship on day one as a customer,
Yes.
you can measure change in that initial session. You can there could be, some modicum of change in that first session.
Wow. And that's powerful. And
Yes,
that's really nice because at the end of the day, it's for me, for my quality of life
hmm
and those that I impact. I impact.
absolutely. hmm
So it's really an investment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know we're coming short on time, Alexandru, but you can use yourself as an example. I truly believe if you go back and look at our very first one, two, three sessions, that you were a customer after the first session because you walked away from our first session with something in hand that instantly changed and made your life better.
Yes. Uh, I'm glad that I did it.
hmm
Again, thanks to the randomness. I don't know.
hmm Absolutely.
Uh, One last question for you, Jerome.
Okay. Okay.
And uh, with a disappointment of some kind, because I would have liked more to talk about uh, the identity of a person. Maybe that could be a topic for a future podcast. How
Absolutely.
long? How long the therapy lasts?
Again, that is it depends question, Alexandra. It depends on where a person is, on when person recognizes where they are and the commitment that the person has to creating change.
Where he is and the commitment to create change. So it's a degree of what you expect of yourself.
And
Let's say.
what you expect of yourself, what you're willing to give of yourself. That's where the commitment comes in.
Okay, so it can vary for a few months to a few years to
hmm
and to even more.
That's right, absolutely. And Alexandru, when I will say this, when I am being interviewed for insurance panels, they ask that very question, how long, does your average client, last in therapy? And I answer that with a it depends. If I'm working with clients that are in the throes of identity development, I've had clients that I've worked with for, on a continuum of, 1 to 3, to 4 to 5 years, and an insurance panel would say like, "Wow, you mean to tell me that you have clients that will stick with you that long?" Yes, because if it's identity development, if that's the core of their issue, there's a lot to untangle, to get person to a place of being secure in their identity. And there are other cases where that's not the problem. A person doesn't have identity development issues, so that case may take 3 to 6 months. There are clients that I work with for 30 days, for 4 sessions, for 6 sessions, and whatever their problem was, we were able to address it. Develop a plan with coping skills and move them along their way. But for those short-term clients, either one of two things has happened: either they're sure of who they are and their purpose and plan for life, or they're looking for band-aids and they don't want to deal with the core issue that brought them to counseling.
Yes, well, I know the question, I know the answer that you just gave is the more correct one, let's say, but it doesn't feel this good, it depends.
I understand.
Because me and other people like to know exactly.
Uh-huh.
But it's again a trait of development to understand how things can develop and how things uh, may happen. And after all, the entire process of therapy, at least for me, it become like a pleasure to do. So it's not really a complaint, but a person who is struggling, who does not have so much money, let's say, they believe at the beginning, let's say, before starting, that they are need a set numbers of sessions of months or years, let's say, in order to get better. Or as I knew a person that given money to the son. So the mother gave money to the son. The son did not achieve what the mother expected in due time, so they were not happy about it.
Okay.
So it's a difficult one, but I think we can make it work for now. I thank you,
Hmm.
Jerome, for today. And if you want to add something else, please do. Otherwise, I think it's all for today.
Okay. Well, Alexandra, I do appreciate you having me, and I would like to close with this. For the mother and the son that shut down therapy after a specific set time, I would simply say, was the son one a customer, and two, was the son matched appropriately with the right therapist? Were they driving in the right direction so that mother could get the outcome that mother wanted? And it sounds to me in that particular hypothetical that mom was more interested in being a customer than son was. That's why I say it depends. I am very leery of taking clients on that aren't doing the paying.
So that's so much importance for you.
Absolutely, because if it costs you something, chances are you're going to be invested. But if it doesn't cost you anything, why do I have a need to care?
Yeah, you said that even before. I agree. It's important.
Hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Jerome.
You're welcome, Alexandru. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the time. I know we didn't get to tackle, the identity question, and I'd love to come back and actually, stay focused on that and see if we can't drive that point home and maybe, help your audience, when it comes to the therapeutic process and people being interested in investing in therapy. I'm greatly appreciative to be on today. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.